Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Since of course the Premier League season starts tomorrow morning as I'm recording this, why not go do my table predictions for the upcoming season. So mine's gonna be. So let's get straight into it. So mine will be a little bit different. So I'm not just doing my predictions in terms of from positions 11 to 20 to 1. I will be doing also my predictions on who also get promoted via the championship, the second tier, and obviously the playoffs. Obviously. So we'll start from the very bottom. Let's go to the two automatic promotion sides who I believe will be promoted to the Premier League for next season. I think the two teams. I think for some reason I don't think the three relegated sides from last season, which were Sheffield United, West Bromwich Albion, and Fulham. I don't think probably the only one of those three that's likely to contend for promotion is probably Fulham. I suggest I guess Sheffield United will qualify for the promotion playoffs, but I think the semi-finals, those playoffs, is probably where I think they'll probably most likely they're going to get that far. I don't think they'll reach the final and then win the final and get back into the Premier League. I don't think. So the two automatic promotion spots, I think it will be filled by Swansea City and Bournemouth. Now. Of course, their season's already started. I think they're only like one round into their matches, and the Premier League's only just going to start this weekend. I've got some stats real quick about Swansea. So last season, of course, they ended up facing Brentford in the playoff final, and unfortunately they lost that. And I have a feeling that I have a feeling that they will get promoted. They will get promoted and maybe promoted up, maybe as champions. I would suggest. I think it's time for Swansea to be back in the Premier League. They've been out of it for about 3 seasons now. It's the 4th season out. It's season in the second division, and I think it's time for them to get back in the Premier League, in my opinion. So too for Bournemouth. I know 2 seasons out. It's their second season in the second division after spending so many years in the Premier League. And I think Bournemouth, I'm confident they will be back in the Premier League because, of course, of course, Scott Parker, who, as we all know, took Fulham up to the Premier League. Not last season, but the season prior, take them back to the Premier League last season. Unfortunately, they didn't get. They got relegated last season. But of course, Scott Parker, he's got experience of taking a team, which was Fulham, as I said, up to the Premier League. So hopefully he'll use that experience, hopefully get Bournemouth back up to the Premier League they still got massive amount of stars in that team. I mean, they got the Cooks, they got Lerma in there, they got Solanke in there as well. They got David Brooks in there as well. Like, how the hell is he not signed with the Premier League club? I have no idea. But then again, obviously loyalty to Bournemouth, so that's why I think he would stay there. But then on the flip side of the coin, of course, obviously they lost Wilshere and of course they lost Asmir Begovic, which I'll which I'll mention later. So I think Bournemouth have that opportunity to have the chance to probably get back in the Premier League, either in second place or at the top of the Premier, at the top of the Championship, champions of the Championship, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah. And I think so Swansea and Bournemouth will be the two I think will get promoted. Automatically get promoted from the Championship. Now the big question is, of course, who will be that third promotion club which is going to get promoted via the playoffs? And I think that this club will follow the likes of Leeds and of course recently in Brentford to go up to the Premier League just out of nowhere, and that is Barnsley. I'm confident that I think that they will I'm confident they will get promoted up to the Premier League. I don't think they'll be good enough to get themselves promoted via the top two positions. I see them more get promotion via the playoffs than anything else. And obviously they obviously last season obviously they finished fifth in the regular season, of course with 23 wins, 9 draws and 14 losses. And I think that they will go to another. I think they will challenge for the playoffs again, and probably challenge heavily for that top three, for that top two position. So probably Bournemouth and Swansea. If I don't think they'll get their own. If it actually goes like that, then I don't think they'll have their own way. If Barnsley can get promoted up, and also you got Fulham. I've tipped also for Fulham, Cardiff, and Sheffield United to also be qualified for those playoff spots. So now we've got that out of the way. Of course, I think so. As I said, the three promoted clubs I believe will go up to the Premier League next season will be Swansea, Bournemouth, and Barnsley, in my opinion. Now we go to the actual table here. So I'll go from the bottom to the top, just as everyone does. So 20th position, I have, and also some of these also before I mentioned the table. Some of these you guys might think, oh, it's pretty straightforward and fair enough. And some of you are like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So for 20th place, I have Crystal Palace. And the reason why I think they'll finish bottom is because because of course Roy Hodgson, who's been their coach for about 4 or 5 seasons now, he left the club, retired or whatever, and replaced by, of course, Premier League legend and former Arsenal captain Patrick Vieira. Despite them still having some good star players in there, like Zaha, Kouyaté, all these, and others as well. The big outs, it's the guys that have left the club. That's probably the reason why I put them down the bottom, is because listen to these names here that I've got here. I've also got me laptop yet again, so that's why I'm looking over here. McCarthy, Townsend, Van Aanholt, Sacco, Hennessy, Scott Dan, Gary Cahill. Those are some good players for Crystal Palace that have left the club and gone off to other clubs, and I think I think even with someone like Wilfred Zaha, I believe it's not going to be enough, and I can definitely see Crystal Palace maybe do what they did what they did a couple of seasons ago, and that was go through what was the first few months without a win and without a goal scored. I can definitely still see that, and you can see it with their first 5 games. They have actually a very tough first month of the season, which is they start off with, of course, against Chelsea at home. Then they verse Brentford at home. Then West Ham. Then the last couple of games are going to be tough with Tottenham at home, and then away at Anfield to Liverpool. So that one's going to be a very tough first month of the season for Crystal Palace, and I think that they will finish bottom of the table. In 19th position, I have the first of the promoted sides, which are last year's championship champions in Norwich City. Of course. So as you could, so of course, last year, of course, they absolutely stormed home to the championship victory, of course, scoring 97 points, of course, and winning 29 out of their 46 games. Surprisingly enough, out of those 97 points, about just over half of them were actually all away from home. So, of course, they had 15 of those 29 wins were away from home, which was fantastic. In my opinion. The signings that they've done also is a bit smart. Also, they've bought in Milot Rashica and Josh Sargent from now Bundesliga 2 club Werder Bremen, and also bought in Angus Gunn also from Southampton. Southampton. So they, but Buendía obviously. Who was a star for them in the championship, he's gone off to Aston Villa, and Leicester, obviously, he's also left as well. And I think for me, out of all the 20 clubs, I think Norwich has the tougher first month of the season because they verse Liverpool, Manchester City, and Arsenal in their first 5 games. And then of course then the other two are Leicester, who's another European contender, and also Watford, who's a fellow promotion team. So there's a possibility they might maybe get maybe 1 point out of those first 5 games. Speaking about that, I've already done a table calculator thing. To do with the first 5 games, so what I predict, what will happen after the first 5 matches, And speaking about Southampton, I think the final relegation team, I think, will be Southampton. I think Southampton, they've not been. I think for me they've not been good for the best part of 5, 6, 7 years, in my opinion, and I think for me I think it'll end this year in the side's relegation. I think They've got all, and surprisingly enough, they've also got some very good star players also in that side too. They got Vestergaard, Walker Peters, James Ward-Prowse, Redmond, Elianusi, Shea Adams in there as well. and also to add into the transfers, also they got Armstrong. They brought in Theo Walcott from Everton, as well. But the big elephant in the room for Southampton is one name by the name of Danny Ings. I think he was probably the one who probably was the reason why Southampton had been probably since the first half of the 20 of last season. I think I remember rightly at one stage I think they were on top of the table, I believe, or close to it. One time, I think they were up as high as third at one stage, and that was probably all to do with Danny Ings. Then they sort of fell away in the second half of the year. I think they won. I think they won only. I think at one stage, I believe they only won. I think they lost 8 in a row at one stage during last season. And they only won like 3 times in the whole second half of the year. So yeah, I believe I think they haven't been good for the last few seasons now, and they've been lucky with relegations and safety and all that. But I believe that will end in the side's relegation. I believe for me, Ralph Hasenhüttl, he was successful when the Bundesliga and when he was coaching Ingolstadt, and then at RB Leipzig. He was very successful at RB Leipzig. But his philosophy, I believe, in England has not worked, and as I said, it's worked in Germany, but I think it hasn't worked in England, in my opinion. And I can see at some point Southampton losing patience with him and giving him the sack. I have a feeling about that. For 17th place and only just surviving, I believe, by the skin of their teeth, will be Watford. I think they will survive there. I think looking back at their championship season, their championship season, they did finish second in the end, behind Norwich, about only 6 points behind. But the one thing that I think is worrying for me, and that could probably be the difference between them being safe and not, is their away record. Is their record away from home, and this is the sign in the 2020-21 championship season, and that was they were the best home side in the league. They were the best home side in the championship by a very big considerable margin. Out of the 69 available points that they had as a home team, they had 59 points, 19 wins, only 2 draws and 2 losses. They scored 44 goals, which according to my maths, that would be around just over 2 goals a game away at home, and only conceded 12 goals at home as well. So I think their home record is probably not a problem. As I said, the biggest problem is their away record, because they only won 8 games from 19 wins at home. They only won 8 games away and only scored 30. They had 32 points away from home. And they were the 8th best away side in the championship last season, and that's probably my only concern about them being. But I think that I think their proud away record home record will be just enough, only just enough for them to claim for them to be safe. In 16th place, I have Brighton and Hove Albion. Now I think for me, Brighton and Hove Albion, this is where they probably are mostly. They're normally around about that 15th or 17th period side. Not much, but yeah, but I think that I think that they'll stay in the Premier League for another season. Also, they've still got a couple of fantastic players in their side, like Dunk, like Tossard, Mopay in there as well. They got Mwepu in. They got in as well, and then of course the guys they lost also are very good players. Also White, who went to Arsenal for something like £50 million or something like that. Yeah, you have Bash also proper. Bernardo, of course, Matt Ryan. Well, he went on loan from Arsenal and he came back, and now he's been signed to I think it's Real Sociedad in La Liga. And also Jose Izquierdo. He's also left as well. So yeah, and also they also signed Sherpen, who I think he came from Ajax. I think one of the top Dutch teams. I think it was either Ajax or PSV Eindhoven. I think it was Ajax. I might maybe look that up later. So yeah, I think Brighton. I think that they'll. I think towards the middle part of the season that they won't have a good start, in my opinion. But I think that in the middle part of the season they'll reach their peak and then probably fall off. But that middle part of the season will be enough for a good middle part of the season for them will be enough for them to just stay above the relegation zone. In 15th, and this is a side. Now we move on to 15th. This is a side that I think, if out of all 20 sides, this side is the only side where I could go either way. This could go either way. Either they go back up towards contending for Europe again, or go straight back, or go on a downward spiral, which will end in a season or two's time, and them being back down in the second tier, and that is Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're the worrying side for me, even though they've still got the good players in there, like Semedo, like Ruben Neves, Raul Jimenez also is in there as well. Adama Traore also. For some reason it's worrying signs for me that that they're going to go on this downhill slide. I don't think they'll get relegated this season. But we all said that last year about Sheffield United, and they end up going down after finishing last. So you never know. I think that as I said, it's either going to go two ways. Either they continue this downhill slide, or they just pull a finger out of their backsides and basically just go bang. They go back up to Europe again. It's either going to go either way, in my opinion. I think that as I said, it's going to go. For me, it will go either way. Either way, yeah, in my personal opinion. In 14th place, I have Burnley. Now everybody is saying that they're going to go down, but I think they've got enough. Even though they don't have enough star players in their side, I think Sean Dyche has got this side to say, you know what, are we the best side in Europe, best side in the league? No. Are we the best? Are we the best side outside the top 6 teams in the league? No. Are we the most world class team in the league? No. But are we the most determined side in the league? Yes. So and they've proved over the last 3 seasons. They've definitely done enough. They've at times done enough and a little bit more, I must say, to get them to stay up. And I think they'll do it again. And I think that and this is a kind of a bold one of a few bold predictions I'm going to make during this video. I think Sean Dyche. I don't. Some people might say that Sean Dyche. I think the rumors are that Sean Dyche is in. I heard he's in his last year of his contract at Burnley. I think that he'll have another year. I think there will be at least another year, another season at Burnley as coach for Sean Dyche. I think the side will help him in realising that. In 13th place and the best of the promoted sides by a fair way, I think will be Brentford. For some reason, I think I can see them as what Leeds did last year, what Sheffield United did the season before, what Wolves did the season before that, and basically not like challenging for Europe or challenging for mid-table, but obviously being around that. Obviously, I said around that mid-table kind of thing. Around that mid-table kind of thing. Of course, they still got star players in their side from the championship, like Ivan Toney, who I think once he gets his feet off the ground in the Premier League, then I think he'll be amazing. I think for Brentford, and they haven't. I think for me, they haven't lost any like big star players that of course those players were the reason why they got promoted up in the first place. So what was the point in selling them when for a big profit when Brentford's going up to the Premier League. So yeah, I think they'll surprise a couple of teams. I think, especially the teams. We saw Leeds do this last season. I think Brentford will do the same, and that surprise a couple of the big teams, like for instance, like the Manchester sides, like Liverpool, like Chelsea. Well, I'm not saying necessarily they'll win or against all those teams. I'm saying they'll challenge them. Like, don't be expecting them to be beaten by these kind of sides like 5 or 6-0 or something like that. Expect them to at least challenge big time against those kind of sides. But as I said, 13th place would be Brentford. Now 12th, 12th. I think this side. I think this club. I think if they have the right, if they have, of course, players don't have injuries to key players and all that, I think they will challenge for mid-table, and that says something. And that is the men of black and white, and that is Newcastle United. They've got some very class players in there. Also, they've got Callum Wilson, Alan Saint Maxima. They got Fraser in there, Shelby, John Joe Shelby. They got Lascelles in there as well. And I think Steve Bruce. It's very hard to say, but they were not. But this time last year, they were not. Well, not this time last year, but last season at times there were some times there where it was very bleak for them. They were basically in the relegation scrap, like pretty much all the second half of the season, and then they won back-to-back games to basically not only secure them safety, but also secure them place almost in the mid-table. And I think that I think for me, I think they finished 12th last year. I think they'll finish 12th again. I think that'll be right for them also. In 11th, I think that will go to Leeds United. I don't think that some people might say, oh, they'll have a sophomore slump like Sheffield United did last season. I don't think that'll happen. I think that Marcelo Bielsa, I believe, will motivate them to challenge for mid-table again. Probably not challenging for Europe, but challenging at least for mid-table. Because that mid-table scrap, I have a feeling that will ultimately be that will, I think they'll ultimately be an absolute dogfight to see who will finish mid-table with a few teams, and I have a feeling that maybe Leeds will carry it because they won their last 4 games at the end of last season, and I have a feeling that maybe they'll carry that form into this season. So they finished 9th last year. I'm predicting them to go backwards, but I don't think it'll be that bad of a season for them if they finish 10th or 11th. I think it'll be a bit of a decent season for them. And speaking of that, in 10th position now, this is the first one where probably you guys will probably think, oh, this one's probably a bit too harsh. And I think, and this one is perfectly valid, and that is Arsenal. I think, and this is the biggest bold prediction I'm going to make in this video. I have a feeling that if Arsenal do not have a good start to the season, I have a feeling that Mikel Arteta will be one of the first, if not the first coach in the Premier League season to get the sack. I have a feeling that will happen. I think he'll be the first manager in this Premier League season, this upcoming Premier League season, I should say, rather, to get the sack. That is, as I said, if Arsenal do not have a good start to the season, which normally they don't. They had an awful start to the season a couple of years ago when they were under Unai Emery, and look what happened to him. He got the axe, and of course he was replaced by Arteta. But yeah, I think for me, but I think Arsenal most likely will take their form from from the end of the last season into this year. They won their last 5 games. The teams they bet were Chelsea. Other than Chelsea, they didn't beat much. Also in those 5 games, of course, they bet Newcastle already relegated West Brom, Crystal Palace, and Brighton and Hove Albion. So even though it was impressive for them to get those 5 wins in a row, they weren't quality opposition other than Chelsea. So that is a bit of a worry in my personal opinion. And they've also look at and that's despite having so many of these stars. I mean, list out a handful right now. Leno, White, Gabriel, Chambers, Tierney, Xhaka, Leighton Baines, Saka, Rowe, Pepe, Lacazette, Aubameyang in there as well. I mean, there's so, and there's more that they haven't. That's only just a handful I've just said. There's a whole lot more. And it's understandable for you guys to come out if you guys in the comment section below come out and say, the Arsenal with 10th is going to be too harsh, but it's valid for me because they normally do this. They do normally start badly in a season. And also the outs as well. I mean, of course, they got Guendouzi. Also, he's shown the door. Obviously, he's gone to Marseille. David Luiz, he's gone. Well, that's not a big out, obviously, because he hasn't been good for Arsenal, as I've heard. Odegaard, Matt Ryan, he went back to, as I said, went back to Brighton and went to Real Sociedad. And then, of course, Danny Ceballos has also gone back to Real Madrid, where he was on loan from to Arsenal. So it seems strange that so many of these stars can be a part of the sides, basically get it finished 10th. But I have a feeling that I think that will happen. As I said, if Arsenal have a bad start to the season, I should say, rather, I can see the Arsenal board losing patience and then Mikel Arteta gets shown the door, in my opinion. And that could also happen too, because they versus Brentford in their first game, which is tomorrow morning as I'm recording this. Then the next two games are Chelsea and Manchester City, and then afterwards would be Norwich and Burnley. So the next 4 games after this weekend are going to be important, because if they lose or draw all 4 of those games, or all 5 of them for that matter, if you include the Brentford game, then I'm not going to say it's still be to add to the fuel to the fire that is possibly Mikel Arteta being fired. You see what I did there? As Arsenal manager. So I think that. Moving on. In 9th place, I have Aston Villa. I think that they actually I think they've done very well despite losing Jack Grealish to Manchester City, which I'll talk about in a bit. They've signed Brindira, who was one of the players of the Championship last season. They also signed Danny Ings, who was fantastic at Southampton when he was at Southampton, and signed Leon Bailey also from Bayer Leverkusen. If you guys don't know, I am an absolute fan of the Bundesliga, and he lit it up when he was playing for Bayer Leverkusen. And I think he'll work wonders at Aston Villa. I think he'll add to the side that already has guys like Mings, Watkins, Danny Ings also, Traore as well, just to name a few. Douglas Luiz also. He's gonna. So I think he'll add a lot to the side. To what is probably the most underratedly exciting squads in the out of all the Premier League sides, especially outside the top 6 teams, for sure, definitely. I think that those signings there, especially in that squad that they have, probably can frighten a few sides also in Aston Villa. And they don't have that bad of a start to the year anyway, because they verse Watford in their first game, then they verse Newcastle, and then they verse Brentford. So it's easily, potentially, probably that's 9 points from their first 3 games straight away. Then their first big test is against Chelsea. Then after that will be against Everton. So that's a possible 10 points from their first 5 games, possibly. If they have no injuries to their key players. So I have a feeling about that. So moving on, in 8th position, I have Rafa Benitez led Everton. Of course, last season, when they're under Carlo Ancelotti, they set the league alight last season, and also one player in particular, obviously, in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He was absolutely on fire in the first half of the season. Then, unfortunately, they sort of dropped off, probably mid-season, where they ended up finishing about 9th position. 10th position. Sorry, exactly mid-table in the end. Of course, Carlo Ancelotti obviously has gone to Real Madrid, obviously to replace Zinedine Zidane. For I think it's his second stint at Real Madrid. I think it is. And of course, Rafa Benitez, obviously, his most recent stint in the Premier League was, of course, manager of Newcastle, and did very well there. I have a feeling that he will do it again. But the big problem is, of course, the fans. Now, of course, if you guys don't know, he was once manager of Liverpool, who are the Merseyside rivals of Everton. So it'll probably take a long while for Rafa Benitez to probably win the faith of Everton supporters. I have a feeling about that. I have a feeling about that. Definitely. Definitely. I think, as I said, no, I don't think necessarily they'll definitely challenge for Europe. I think I can see them maybe in European spots, maybe most of the season, and then fall away in the second half, maybe. I don't know, but I think it'll be an improving season for Everton to improve their sort of upward trajectory ever since Carlo Ancelotti took over, and now Rafa Benitez is now going to be the one that continued that rising trajectory. In seventh place, moving on in seventh place, finishing in seventh for the second year in a row, second season in a row, I have Tottenham Hotspur. And that's strange, and that is still right now. Of course, we all know that there's rumours about Harry Kane going to Manchester City. There's been no word over that. So at this point in time, Harry Kane is still a Spurs player. So that if he had left, I would put him probably not too far, maybe one spot behind Everton, maybe. But obviously, of course, last season, of course, they're under the great one, under the special one, Jose Mourinho. Unfortunately, he got the sack about 3-4 weeks to go in the season, I think. I think you guys can correct me down in the comments below. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks to go in the season. I think that's when Mourinho got the sack. And of course, and it was very late also that they announced their new coach. They went for so many others, which obviously was failed. And in the end, they got in Nuno Espirito Santo, who previously coached Wolves, coached Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I think that if at their best, I think they can do what they did last season. That is the first half of the year challenge for top 4, and then probably maybe fall away. Which is strange, considering that these star players here like Sanchez, Dyer, Sessegnon, Corsorier, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Dele Alli, Heung-min Song, Lucas Moura, and of course the super striker himself, Harry Kane. But also they've lost a lot of players too. Like they lost in Alderweireld, they lost Joe Hart, Danny Rose. They lost Eric Lamela in that Brian Gill transfer transfer swap, and of course obviously they lost Gareth Bale because he was on loan from Real Madrid last season. And I think that looking back at their fixture for the first 5 games, I can see them possibly look at of course they first Manchester City in the first game, Then in their fifth game, they versed Chelsea. I believe they'll lose both of those. But in the other three, they versed Wolves, Watford, and Crystal Palace. So those are three definite wins. Well, not definite wins, but potential wins for them. So I think if they do that and possibly maybe get points, maybe in the against Manchester City or Chelsea, maybe it's not the end of the world for Tottenham. Probably not the worst start for them. I would think, but moving on, I think we move on to probably the team that shocked everyone, including myself, last season, and that was West Ham United. I may or may not have tipped them to get relegated last season, and they ended up finishing sixth. Which if you look at it, of course, obviously they got in Jesse Lingard, obviously on loan from Manchester United, and it sort of helped them out a bit. And I think David Moyes, I believe, I think he's really reinventing himself, as a manager before he took the Manchester United job. In my opinion, I think he was a well-respected manager when he was at Everton and all that. And then when he went to Manchester United to be the replacement for Fergie, then that's when his reputation probably dropped a bit. And it was probably further cemented when he was probably the reason why Sunderland went falling down a cliff right now. And when we all thought that when we took over in the mid part of 1920 season, to replace, I can't remember his name, Manuel Pellegrini, that was his name, I had a memory blank there, Manuel Pellegrini, we all thought, he'll go down with a season or two, but he's really and the players that they got, they're not exactly they're not like world-class players, but they're very decent players. Like, they got in Areola, obviously, in this transfer window from on loan from PSG. They've also got a Declan Rice. They got Lanzini. They got Bowen. They got Mikel Antonio in there as well. They're not just and also especially what I said about Lingard, they finished sixth for a reason, and that is because of these players playing well. And I think if they do that, then basically they will. I think they'll finish in Europe again. I think even though some people might say, European football might test their depth, but we said that about Leicester last year. We tipped them to drop off. Well, they didn't in the end. And I think that they will. I think they'll finish sixth again this season. Now finishing in fifth again for the third year running. And trust me, I was this close to putting him in the top four. This close. And that is Leicester. I was very close to putting him in the top four. I really, really, really wanted them to finish top four, but obviously the four other teams ahead of them were way better than them. Some of these star players, I believe, are great. I mean, I said this about Aston Villa. I think Leicester and Aston Villa, on paper, I think they're the two sides that could really scare a few teams, especially teams outside the top six. I mean, listen to some of these names. You got Soyuncu, you got Pereira, you got Justin, who's been James Justin, who's come along well over the last 12 months. You got Ndidi, You got Tielemans, Barnes, Madison. You got Perez in there as well, Iheanacho, and of course you got the old boy in there and Jamie Vardy in there as well. Even though he's getting on a bit now. I think this is probably one. I think for me it's probably one final year for Vardy to because he's been at the top of his game pretty much all for the last few years since the 15-16 season when Leicester won the Premier League. He's been on his game, and it's probably the last year probably his game, and then he might consider retiring and all that. So yeah. And also the signings they've added in. I mean, added in Bertrand from Southampton. I think he can add a lot to their side as well. And I think for me, Brendan Rodgers, I think he really wants this side to really contend for those Champions League spots yet again. And I think we're in an era for Leicester where they're no longer this side that basically challenges for mid-table. They want to challenge for Europe consistently, and I think they will do that again this season. Now, 16 teams down. 16 teams down, only 4 to go. In fourth place, I think I choose Chelsea. And the reason why I put them in fourth is because I tipped them to be Premier League champions the previous year because they signed in Werner, Ziyech, Havertz, who else there? Mendy as well during the transfer window this time last year. And they didn't go down. It didn't go well. Obviously under Frank Lampard, obviously he got the axe, and of course Thomas Tuchel in charge. And I have a feeling that he could potentially bring them up closer to probably winning them a title. I mean he was a fantastic coach when he was at PSG. Fantastic coach when he was coach at Dortmund. Even at Mainz also. He was good, so or brilliant. So and there's no doubt that he can. His philosophy will work at Chelsea in England. I think, in my opinion, unless Roman Abramovich decides I want to sack another coach. So yeah. And also some of these star players also, if you add in, of course, Lukaku, who only just recently got signed from Inter Milan for his third stint at Chelsea, if you add into the list of guys like Mendy, Kepa, Rudiger, Chilwell, Marcos Alonso, Reece James, Azpilicueta, N'Golo Kante, Kovacic, Barkley, Loftus-Cheek, Mount, Havertz, Ziyech, Pulisic, Werner. Can I name more? I mean, that's gonna definitely add. His presence will definitely add something to Chelsea's attacking options, and adding to their striker depth. For me, in third place, I have Liverpool. They still have, even though they still have the likes of Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Thiago, and of course the big three in Mane, Salah, and Firmino. I think there will not be enough to challenge the top two teams, which if you haven't worked out by now, are the two Manchester sides. I don't think they'll work out as much as I would have thought, or as everyone would think. Of course, the big out obviously is Jorginho Wijnaldum. Of course, going over to PSG, and he's benefited a lot from that because Lionel Messi's gone over there, so he's going to be teammates with Leo. With the great Leo Messi. in the end. Of course, Konate is signed from RB Leipzig. I think he'll work wonders with them. With them. Of course, joining a former teammate in Naby Keita. Speaking about Naby Keita, I don't know why he hasn't lived up to the hype that he was when he got signed for them in 2018. For some reason, he hasn't lived up to the hype that he was when he was at RB Leipzig. For some reason, I don't know. And we've now with Thiago and Fabinho there, and of course Henderson there as well. Is there the possibility maybe Liverpool maybe next season maybe sells him maybe, or sends him out on loan maybe to another team? I don't know, because I think Keita hasn't lived up to the hype, in my personal opinion, as he has been when he was at RB Leipzig previously. And I think Jurgen Klopp, I believe, he'll improve them, but not just enough to top the top of the two Manchester sides. So let's get to the top two. And as I said, if you haven't worked it out already, it is the two Manchester sides that are left. So in second place, I have Manchester City. Yes. If Harry Kane did sign for Manchester City, I would have put him at the top. But yeah, I think for me, I think for me, they've got the armory. They've got everything there. But there's one small problem. One small problem with this, and that's why I put him in second, and that's the striker. I don't know, because there was rumours that they were going to go after Erling Haaland, but now I don't see him leaving Dortmund. We haven't seen United go after an Aguero replacement. Maybe they might maybe put Sterling as striker and then put Grealish in behind him. I don't know, but yeah, that's probably the main problem for me in my personal opinion. That's why I put him in second place. Is Manchester City, and I think Pep Guardiola wouldn't be notified of that. And maybe Pep Guardiola, maybe it was tactical expertise. Maybe he decides to put someone like Mahrez up top or something like that. I don't know. He'll figure something out. So that means that the champions, and I can't believe I'm saying this, my prediction to be champions for the first time in 8 years, I think, Manchester United. And for the first time in a long time, I am confident that this Red Devils side, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, can win the title. I mean, just listen to these names. I'm going to read all of them out here. Henderson, David De Gea, Maguire, Lindelof, Eric Bailly, Luke Shaw, Tellez, Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, Williams, Pogba, McTominay, Van der Beek, Fred, Fernandes, Lingard, Rashford, James, Sancho is a new signing, Greenwood, Diallo, and Anthony Martial. I mean, those are some very big names. If you add Raphael Varane into that list, wow, that is big. And that's the reason. And the reason why I put them in there, put them up first instead of Manchester City, is because there's uncertainty about that striker position over at the Citizens, while at the Red Devils, all the positions are pretty much sorted in the end. It's just who is going to play where. That's probably a good problem for Ole to have, in my opinion. In my opinion, of course. What sort of role would Sancho play? What role would Rashford play? What role would Martial play? For example, we all know what sort of role Bruno Fernandes will play. But I believe, in my opinion, I think they will. I think they're my tip to be Premier League champions. I did say Chelsea would win. I said Chelsea last. I tipped Chelsea last year to win the Premier League title. That didn't happen. Obviously, that failed after about 3 months. I'm confident that Manchester United will go back to the top of the Premier League after 8 long years of waiting. I think this year's the year for Manchester United to really win the Premier League title, in my personal opinion. So that's my predictions. My table predictions. The next video will be me doing the Bundesliga predictions. Please like this video. Share this to anybody that's a Premier League fan or a Manchester United fan or anything like that. Comment down below, who do you tip to be Premier League champions? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's Manchester United? Do you see Tottenham? Not Tottenham. Liverpool winning it, Manchester City, Chelsea. I'd love to hear your opinion. And lastly, somewhere down there, click on the big red button, which is named subscribe. It'll help me out tremendously. Click on the notification bell, obviously, while you're there, and switch on notifications on your phone. If you're watching on your phone, to get notified of when I next do an upload. So until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later.